When connecting to Excel data from Power BI, you are essentially connecting to a workbook, and a workbook is a container. And within that container, Power BI recognizes three data objects: worksheets, tables, and named ranges. So let's begin by having a look at these three data objects in the context of an Excel workbook. In the Exercises folder, in 04 Connecting to Excel Data, let's open up number 1, Excel Data Objects. And here you can see that we have three worksheets: Expenses, Expenses Table, and Expenses Range. Regardless of the presence of any other objects, Power BI will always recognize worksheet data. Any sheet that has data in it will appear as an object to which you can connect. Let's now look at tables. In the Expenses Table worksheet, we've formatted the data as a table. Apart from the formatting, the sign that this is the case is that when we look at the ribbon, we have a contextual tab called Table Tools Design. And when we click on this, on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have a table named Expenses Table. So this is a separate object to the worksheet data. And what's slightly confusing is that Power BI will recognize both the table and the worksheet. So although it's the same data, it will present it to us in two ways: as data within a worksheet and as data within a table. And similarly, if we go across to the Expenses Range worksheet, here we've given a name to this range of data. So if I click in the name box, although we can't quite see the name, it actually says Expenses Named Range. And when we choose that name, the corresponding data is selected. To work with names, by the way, go into the Formulas tab and click on Name Manager. And here we can see the range in question, Expenses Named Range. So those are the three objects that Power BI recognizes. Let's close the Excel workbook, and now let's go into Power BI and connect to that workbook. So we'll open up the PBIX file connecting to Excel files. And to connect to the workbook, in the Home tab of the ribbon, we click on Get Data Excel. And this is the one we want, Excel Data Objects. When the preview window appears, we're given a list of all the data objects which Power BI recognizes. So here we have the table, here we have a worksheet, and here we have a named range. In addition, the worksheet on which the named range is sitting is also displayed, and the worksheet on which the table is sitting is also displayed. And there's no way of suppressing this. And when you first start connecting to Excel data, you may find this rather confusing. So just bear that in mind. Since a named range is part of a worksheet, both the named range and the worksheet are displayed. And since a table is also sitting on a worksheet, both the table and the worksheet it's sitting on are displayed. So in this case, let's simply ignore the two, if you like, container worksheets, and just focus on bringing in one table, one worksheet, and one named range. From here, we can either load the data if we plan to build a report from it, which of course is not what we want to do. What we want to do is to examine the queries which are generated. So to do that, we click on Transform Data, and this will take us into the Power Query Editor. Now, of course, all three of these data objects are coming from exactly the same source. In the applied steps on the right of the screen, if we click on Source for each of them, we'll see exactly the same thing. Basically, we can see all of the contents within the workbook listed within a table. and this includes some items which are maintained by Excel behind the scenes and not normally exposed to the user. The thing that distinguishes our three queries is the second step, the navigation. When we click on this step, in the formula bar, we can see what navigation has taken place. If you don't see the formula bar, by the way, simply go to the View menu, and here you'll find a checkbox which you can activate to display the formula bar. So in the case of the expenses table, you'll see that the navigation step takes us to an item called expenses table of the kind table. And similarly, if we go across to worksheet and look at the navigation step there, we navigate into an item called expenses worksheet of the kind sheet. And finally, for the named range, we navigate into an item called expenses named range of the kind defined name.